Welcome back. You're watching India Today. It's a spectacular beginning to the new year. India has given its conditional nod to the first vaccine, Covishield, which is made by AstraZeneca and Oxford. 2 doses per person would be given. The efficacy rate is up to 80%. In India, the government will price it at 440 rupees per person for both the vaccines, both the doses. The market rate is 700 to 800 per person for both the doses. The storage will be between 2 degrees to 8 degrees Celsius. This is one of the key factors why this particular vaccine is more suited to India than any other vaccine. The stockpile is already 7.5 crore shots. We already have that. So we are ready to roll out 7.5 crore shots. Now, these are the reasons, viewers, why this particular vaccine is most suited where India is concerned. So India giving its nod to that first vaccine. We're also expecting possibly Covaxin as well to get that nod. The meeting is still on. Our expert panel is still deliberating on Covaxin. But Covishield has now been given the nod. But what I'm going to do is India prepared? Well, India has been in preparations or preparatory mode for a very, very long while. As Covishield now gets its nod, preparation for temperature-sensitive vaccine is being done at the Delhi airport. It's been happening for a while, which has the capacity of 1.8 million metric tons of vaccine. Take a look at this ground report filed by my colleague Polumi Saha.
One of the cargo terminals at Delhi International Airport. In this specific area where I'm standing right now, I'll ask my camera person Ajay to show you around. This is where the COVID-19 vaccines, when they come in, will be stored. These are cargo facilities, temperature-controlled cargo facilities. So the temperature that I'm standing in right now is about 2 to 8 degrees. This is the temperature which will be maintained in this section. That's the cold storage which goes up to minus 20 degrees Celsius where the vaccine can be stored. And what we're being told is like 2 freighters worth of vaccine material and doses can in fact be stored over here. The total capacity in terms of weight stands at about 1.5 lakh metric tons, but they say, Delhi airport authorities say, that can be
All right, dude, what did you guys do? We're having a bit of a production glitch. We're going to try and rectify that. But let's cut across right now to our reporters who are joining us. I have Abhishek Mishra live, who's joining me from Lucknow. Milan Sharma reporting from Delhi. Nolan Pinto reporting from Vidyapeeth, Bengaluru. And Ankit Tyagi, who's going to be joining us right now from the national capital. I want to cut across to Abhishek first. Abhishek, the dry run to be taking place in Lucknow as well as in Bengaluru. It's all going to happen tomorrow. Earlier on, there were a bit of apprehensions with this dry run. Now, there must be exceeding levels of excitement because the first vaccine has been given the green light.
Well, certainly, Preeti, this is a much-awaited moment for all those people who were looking forward to this corona vaccine, which is all set for the dry run tomorrow. This is the Serum Institute in Lucknow, where tomorrow from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. in the afternoon, the dry run will happen. All the preparations are underway, and it is very important to check the success of this vaccine and also to make sure what kind of arrangements are there when actually the drive will happen. And, the government and the administration is focusing on making it available to a greater number of people. So it is very important to make sure what system is there, how they are going to make sure that when there will be people on ground, what kind of arrangement should be made. And as we all been hearing from the experts as well, there are going to be 3 rooms. First room where there will be the arrangements for the identification. The ID proofs will be taken. The second room will be specifically for the vaccination. And the third and the most important room is about monitoring these patients, how the vaccine is reacting. So that's all. It's all the process, but it remains to be seen how successful this trial is going to be in Lucknow. At 5 institutes, this dry run will be happening in PGR Lucknow, in here in Lohia Institute, also in Sahara Hospital, and one of the government hospital as well. So like that, and one of course KGMU. So these are the 5 spots where the trial will happen. The preparations are going on, and tomorrow sharp at 10 a.m. the dry run will start, and it will determine how and what are the things which needs to be done now. Yes.
Right, Abhishek, we're going to continue to come back to you. Before I cut across right now to the man of the moment, Adar Poonawalla, an exclusive with him. Let's just get you a quick excerpt. But before I do that, Milan, I want to come across to you. Is the nod to the second vaccine, Covaxin, also possible today?
Well, Preeti, so much time has been given to Covishield already because as we speak now, it's been over 6 hours, 7 hours and 25 minutes since the time the meeting started. So all the deliberations for Covishield, because remember, Covishield was the front runner. Bharat Biotech's presentation has just concluded, and the main contention here is that Bharat Biotech is still doing phase 3 trials. And remember that they were unable to find a few vaccine volunteers also. So their trials are still happening all across the country. But they were hopeful that the interim data, phase 1-2, would be able to provide enough material to the SEC panel for them also to get interim emergency authorization. But at this point of time, it's difficult to say if Covaxin could also be considered today. But definitely Covishield is what we've been told by our sources has been recommended for further approvals, and now all eyes on the Drug Controller General of India there.
Now I'm going to come right back to you, and what would be right now, when you look ahead, the plan of action in terms of rollout? Because India clearly does have its plan where who in terms of will get the vaccine first, but when will the common citizen get it? We are going to cut across to Milan in a short while from now, but let's listen in. India today got exclusive entry into the Serum Institute. We spoke to Adar Poonawalla on Covishield. Listen in.
How do your safety and technical standards compare with the Pfizer's or the Moderna's?
Absolutely the same. We have the same equipment ordered from Germany, Europe, US. Even the glass that we import sometimes is from there. The rubber stoppers are from Belgium and Holland. You've got chemicals coming in from Denmark. So everything is actually on that standard. The only cost advantage we have is the manpower cost and the energy cost. But apart from that, all the capex, opex, everything is imported. So this is very important to understand. So the quality is the same as any European or US manufacturer now. For example, this machine is from Groninger in Germany.
So you're saying that typically, as far as you're concerned, and in the way that you see it, the production facilities and standards are the same as, say, as Pfizer.
Identical.
So Adar, I want to spend some time talking about the safety of the vaccines that you're producing. Now, the biggest concern world over is how safe is not just the Serum Institute vaccine, all the vaccines that are being made. You know, people are really petrified about the consequences of vaccines that have been manufactured so quickly.
So as you can see, these are fully automated lines. Groninger, Bosch, a lot of manufacturers use German and Belgium and other European automated manufacturers where the vials are washed at high speed, then they're heated at a very high temperature going through this tunnel that you can see in front of you, and then after that it's filled. So the containers in which the vaccine lands up in is very clean, and then of course you saw how it was being screened and checked for particulate matter to ensure the highest levels of safety. And you know, we have tried to remove human intervention as much as possible so that, you know, as you can see over here, you can only put your hand in with a glove through these openings here. This is an isolator line so that you never come into contact. No human being ever comes into contact Um, as you can see, you put your hand through a glove, so you won't come into contact with the product directly.
You put out a statement saying the government should indemnify pharma companies that are manufacturing these vaccines from lawsuits. And people are saying, hey, if I take others' vaccine and something happens to me, why should other be indemnified?
Correct. Good question. So let me put that in the right context. I mentioned that this is something the government can look at because even in the US and other countries, we're looking at these laws being invoked by the government to protect manufacturers only during the time of a pandemic where a massive rollout of vaccines is going to happen. And as a result, you know, there are bound to be some bona fide and non-bona fide cases. And if we see the courts intervening and stopping vaccination programs pending investigations, that's the real risk that we're talking about, and we don't want that to happen. To protect the government programs from being paused or looked at, if you remember, there were some incidences where the trial was stopped for about a month when there was a case abroad. And, you know, that really puts us on a back step in being able to reach the target of being able to vaccinate that critical mass in a population to build up that immunity that is required. So these lawsuits have the ability to slow down and delay these campaigns, which is the only reason why we suggested to the government that perhaps only during the pandemic rollout of these vaccines, indemnity should be granted to the vaccine manufacturers.
Well, that was India Today's all-access exclusive pass to the Serum Institute, where this vaccine, which has been given the go-ahead, is being made. I want to cut across back to my colleague Milan before we go to our guests. Milan, what's going to be now the rollout plan? India has a clear-cut plan. The frontline workers are going to get it first. But when you look at it on a holistic scale, when can the average citizen of this country expect to be vaccinated?
Well, Preeti, that's a tricky question because right now the government's priority is the healthcare workers, 1 crore healthcare workers, then the frontline ones, which are 2 crores, and 27 crore elderly population. So that is going to be a mammoth task when you look at vaccinating 27 crore elderly who are about the age of 50 and have comorbidities. That is when a common man would be able to get the vaccine. And initially, it would take a month or so to vaccinate at least the first 3 crore people. That includes the healthcare workers and the frontline ones. And in the second and the third phase, so it will be a phase-wise exercise. Probably in the second phase, where states have been told to prepare lists of those that are categorized in the vulnerable population category, they will be registered in the CoWIN app, and that is when they will be getting the vaccine. So in terms to say, the first phase would actually be the real vaccination process, where the government will also understand how much of a mammoth task it will be to vaccinate the 27 crore people who are in the vulnerable population category. And Preeti, for you and I, definitely we'll have to wait probably till the mid of the year because the first priority in line has already been listed by the government. And for, the youth, definitely it's going to take some time. The government has also made it very clear they're not going to vaccinate everybody. So it's not like, a billion people in the country would be vaccinated, but only the priority groups that are vulnerable, very susceptible to comorbidities and mortality due to COVID-19 will be looked at in the first initial phases.
Appreciate you joining us, Milan. Thank you there. I want to go across to Dr. Rahul Pandit. He's the Director of Critical Care, Fortis Hospitals, Mumbai, and a member of Maharashtra COVID Task Force. Doctor, the fact that, an average Joe in India, like, say, me and my colleague Bilan there, would possibly only look at being vaccinated in the next 6-7 months. That is, if we're lucky and the timeline keeps. But the fact that the vaccination drive will start, the fact that, our frontline workers would be vaccinated, our elderly would be getting vaccinated soon, it will really cut the scope of infection, will it not?
Absolutely. I think you are spot on that. So there is a population right now, even before the vaccination has started, which has got COVID-19 and must be carrying some antibodies. And if we believe this last Zero survey reports, which was around 4 months ago in August, we had a population which was around 6.7%. and the next zero survey would probably increase the population a little bit more, maybe up to 15-20% or whatever it is. And now when we are actually going to have this critical mass of 30 crore people, which includes healthcare workers, frontline workers, and the elderly with comorbidities, then we will have a substantial amount of population which would be carrying antibodies either by the virtue of they having disease, they having had the disease, beg your pardon, or they have been vaccinated. And it would definitely bring down the number of new COVID infections. There is no doubt about that. And obviously, the vaccination process would continue beyond these 30 crore people as well. Now, I heard somebody say that not everybody may get vaccinated. It's a big may. We don't know. It's a dynamic process. As we go across and we see how the vaccination is actually being effective in bringing down the numbers and wiping out the virus, that's how we will be deciding whether the entire population would get vaccinated or not. As of now, of course, we are thinking that we may not need to vaccinate the entire population, and we would sort of achieve the concept of herd immunity, which has been talked about in the medical and research circles, which would basically mean that a substantial amount of population has basically got antibodies, and now we don't need to vaccinate the rest of the population, and they get sort of immunity because the virus does not spread anymore after that.
All right, but Dr. Pandit, when do we now see because, conditional approval has been given, when do we actually see the first round of vaccination beginning?
So I believe that, this is from the media, I'm hearing that the conditional approval has been given. We don't even know what the conditions have been laid up. And it is now up to the DCGI, is what again I'm hearing from the media, that the ball is basically in DCGI's court as to how it is going to give the final nod for it to roll out. Now, we don't have a few clarities yet on this, what dose, whether the 2 doses interval is going to be few weeks, or is it going to be as the UK basically allowed it to be around 12 weeks or so. So those things need to be looked at before we can actually say that how the actual rollout will go across. What we know for sure is that tomorrow there is a dry run which is happening across the state capitals, across the country and union territories, which seems to be the right logical step to do so that we can actually teeter out the initial problems and then put in policies and structures so that these problems are not repeated when the actual vaccination process starts. So these dry runs are extremely important. I see it's probably going to be a few days. If the DCGI approval indeed comes through, the conditional approval comes through, and those conditions are easily met by the vaccine producers, then it should not take too long, because we are already doing the dry run tomorrow and we could see it happening in the next week or two.
Dr. Pandit, I have actually my colleague Abhishek, who's right now at Lucknow. He's one of the places where the dry run will take place tomorrow. Abhishek, what is going to be the dry run protocol? Can you take us through it? All right, we don't have Abhishek with us. We're going to try and connect back with my colleague Abhishek. Let's cut across right now to our other doctors who are joining us. I have Dr. Jenner as well. Dr. Jenner, like what we were talking about earlier, this would, in India, yes, definitely the biggest vaccination drive ever, also in human history. It's so important to have got it right in terms of timing. India had come under a fair amount of criticism for, being late in approving vaccines, in conducting vaccination drives. But would you reckon this time was well spent, considering the number of people we have here?
I don't think India is late, because India's transmission is lowest at the moment in the world. Mortality is lowest. We have a degree of herd immunity, which is a natural vaccine. We have not delayed too much, and this is the right most feasible vaccine for India. And India is in a partnership to manufacture it. If we manage to vaccine 35 crore in next 6 months, we win the battle. We win the battle. Because India in urban area already herd immunity took place. And if we target vulnerable people in next 6 months, around 30 crores, medical staffs, comorbid patients, we will control this. We will control this. India has the largest population. Most of the European countries have a 1 crore, 2 crore, but India has to give vaccination for 30, 40 crore people. We are not late. I'm not disappointed about it. I'm very proud that we have given approved to a right vaccine at the right time, which is the best vaccine for India. With regard to, there was some confusion about efficacy. The CEO of AstraZeneca has said 2 days ago that efficacy is about 90%, maybe 94%. So we should not have any suspicion or doubt about vaccination. This vaccine has an advantage because it has been generalized worldwide. It has recruited patients from South Africa, from Brazil, from India, from UK, and all the countries have shown a remarkable result. And India if managed 35 crore people to be vaccinated in next 6 months. To be honest, we will control this viral. Viral will be completely slowed down, mutation will reduced, and India would not have any problem. So we are not late, we are at the right time.
Okay.
But just we need a right planning and we need a right system in place so that we can quickly give vaccination to those who need it, who are vulnerable. Again, India has more than 65% population below the age of 40. And that's again in favor of India. So we need to target those who need vaccination.
All right.
And rest is fine.
All right, appreciate you both for joining us. Like I said, it's a fantastic, spectacular opening to the new year. Pretty much, literally speaking, a shot in the arm where India is concerned. Let's hope we begin our vaccination drive very quickly and get on top of this pandemic, which has held us hostage now for over a year. Meanwhile, let's quickly cut across to the next bit of news break that is coming in. Flights between India and UK will resume from 8th January 2021. The Aviation Minister Hardeep Singh Puri just tweeted this out. Operations till 23rd Jan will be restricted to 15 flights per week, each for carriers of the two countries to and from Delhi, Mumbai, Bengaluru and Hyderabad only. The DGCA will issue more details shortly on that account, but the good news for people who've been wanting to come back from the United Kingdom, flights will resume from the 8th of January. With that news break, I want to go into a quick commercial break. Do stay with us. Up next is my colleague Rahul Kanwal.